Let me get to our next guest. He has been called Ben Bernanke's worst nightmare. He is likely going to run for president again. He just announced an exploratory committee. Joining us on the phone is Congressman Ron Paul, who has long called for the Federal Reserve to be abolished. Good morning, Congressman. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Now, Congressman, look, you're possibly going to run for president. I've got to wonder, how are you going to run for president with a platform where you see one day the Fed being abolished? How is that going to play to centrist America?
It's playing pretty well right now because at least the large majority of Americans are with us on the transparency. And the transparency, when it comes, people will realize how unusual and weird our monetary system is, where we have a secret body that was created by the Congress. It's allowed to create money out of thin air, can create trillions of dollars and bail out their friends, send money to bail out foreign banks. And up until now, we've had very, very little transparency. And actually, it's a little bit late now. I think all the damage has been done, and it's a matter. Go ahead.
Well, Congressman, why is it too late? It's not too late. There's still much more work to be done, and they're becoming more and more transparent. Isn't that a good thing?
Well, because the damage has been done since 1971. The massive monetary inflation has set the stage for this huge financial bubble worldwide. It's a dollar bubble. The dollar is going to continue to go down. Prices are now just starting to rise, and that is going to be determined by some psychological factors that once people panic, they're going to panic out of the dollar, and all currencies are going to go down in value and purchasing power. So the system doesn't work. I mean, I doubt very much if Mr. Bernanke will admit that his theory of central economic planning through monetary policy it just flat and doesn't work. As a matter of fact, I'd like him to admit that buying debt is really the culprit, buying the government debt. That's the reason Congress can run up debt. If he didn't buy all the debt, interest rates would go up and the Congress would quit spending. It'd be that simple. But so they're not going to address that. They're going to pretend that a press conference with a little bit of spin is going to reassure everybody, and it might for an hour or two or a day or two, but you can't change economic laws. When you create trillions of dollars of new money, and then you get frustrated because it sits in the reserves, and then someday it's going to break loose, and the prices are going to go up, and we're going to be in a recession, and then we'll never hear again about the exit strategy. We haven't heard about that for a few months now, so they're over the barrel. I don't see any way they can get out of this.
Okay, Congressman, hang on.
It's Michael McKee, Congressman. You run the subcommittee that supervises the Fed. What are you going to do about it? If you don't like what they're doing, what's your plan for either reining them in or getting rid of them?
Well, the best thing is the transparency and passed an audit bill. We tried to do last year. We passed in the House. We got a partial audit, and that's progress. And I think his press conference is making progress that the Fed is now becoming the focus of attention, which is key. Because if we don't, we can't resolve our problems. So I continue to do what I'm doing slowly and tediously. And right now, we're working very hard to try to get the Federal Reserve Board members to come to my subcommittee, but they can stonewall you. It's not like I can march in and get them, and until I get support for getting them over there, and in time, I hope we can. But what needs to be done is not what the Fed does. The Fed does respond to the Congress. The Congress created the Fed. The Congress could restrain the Fed, so you have to get a consensus. And right now, people are just starting to wake up and learn about the Fed. But believe me, it's coming because their system has failed. That's what they have to admit, and the American people know it. And the world economy is starting to know it, too, because the world financiers are starting to talk about, well, what kind of a currency is going to replace the dollar? And they're talking about a worldwide fiat currency. They're doing all kinds of things like that. But the Congress has a responsibility.
Congressman, and that's a point. In fact, you have heard people talk about, well, at some point, will the dollar have to be replaced? But Al, I mean, is the congressman becoming less and less of an outlier with his views, as he just said right at the open?
Well, I suspect he is, but let me ask the congressman, if I may, Betty. You pointed out he's running for president. I haven't heard a lot of this from the Mitt Romneys and the Tim Pelennys, Congressman Paul. Do you think this issue, the issue of the Federal Reserve and its independence or its very existence, will be for you a differentiating issue between you and the other candidates in the Republican field?
Yeah, I think it certainly will be, but they're going to pick up on the rhetoric, and they'll talk about it indirectly because they're already talking indirectly about high prices of goods and services, commodity prices, and especially oil. But they don't connect it to the fact that we've allowed the Fed to create unlimited amounts of money and credit, which is the source of the inflation. Inflation is always a result. The price inflation always comes from the monetary inflation. So they'll talk about it indirectly, but they're not going to get to the bottom of the problem, and that is the whole nature of our monetary system.
Congressman, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Great to talk with you, as always, Congressman Ron Paul of Texas.